In today's video, we will talk about the complete history of the Bible, as you've never seen it, in 4K. Before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe for more great videos. Let's get into it. What if everything you knew about the Bible was wrong? And what if the stories you thought were just stories had real historical roots? That's right. There are a lot of things in the Bible that happened exactly as they are written. But most of them have hidden histories behind them that almost no one knows. Stay tuned, because some of these histories are shocking and could change your whole view of the Bible. Let's start from the beginning, Genesis. This book is where it all began. God created the world, Adam and Eve, the forbidden fruit, the fall of man, Noah and the flood, the Tower of Babel, and so on. But did you know that there may be proof that some of these events actually happened? For example, researchers recently discovered a piece of pottery that dates back to the time of Moses. On the pot, there is an inscription that reads, "To the chief wine officer Neith-Horeb." Neith-Horeb is believed to be the same person mentioned in the Bible as Jethro, Moses' father-in-law. If this is true, then it would prove that the Bible is accurate and that Moses really did live. Another interesting discovery was made in 2007 when archaeologists found a clay tablet that dates back to 1800 BC. The tablet contains a law code that is strikingly similar to the Ten Commandments. This suggests that the laws given to Moses on Mount Sinai may have been inspired by earlier Mesopotamian law codes. In fact, many scholars believe that the entire story of Exodus took place in the Middle East. According to this theory, Moses led the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt and then wandered through the Middle East for 40 years before finally settling in Canaan. This would explain why the Israelites seemed to have such a hard time finding their promised land. They weren't familiar with the area and kept getting lost. This also explains why the Israelites were able to easily steal the land from the Canaanites. They were much stronger than the Canaanites and had been wandering in the desert for 40 years, which gave them plenty of time to train and become warriors. Finally, it also explains why Joshua was able to quickly take over Jericho. He simply led his army into the city and blew 7 trumpets, causing the walls to come tumbling down. The Canaanites weren't prepared for an attack and were easily defeated. But what about the parting of the Red Sea? Is there any truth to this story at all? Some scholars believe that this event didn't happen exactly as it's written in the Bible, but that it may have been an exaggeration. They think that Moses and the Israelites didn't actually part the sea, but that they went around it. This would explain why Pharaoh and his army weren't able to catch up to them. They would have had to go around the sea as well. However, there is no evidence to support this theory, and it's possible that the story of the parting of the Red Sea is completely false. Moving on, let's talk about the history of David and Goliath. Most people think that this story is just a made-up story to teach us that it doesn't matter how big the challenge is, we can always overcome it if we try hard enough. However, there is evidence that this story may have a kernel of truth to it. The Bible says that Goliath was a Gittite, which is believed to refer to a group of people who lived in the area of modern-day Lebanon. There was a group of people called the Gita that lived in the area of modern-day Lebanon. They were known for being tall and strong, which fits the description of Goliath. There is also a very old archaeological site called Tel Dan, which is believed to be the location of the battle between David and Goliath. Some historians believe that Goliath wasn't actually a giant, but that he was just a very tall soldier. There was a common practice among ancient warriors to exaggerate the size of their enemies in order to make themselves look bigger and stronger. So it's possible that Goliath was just a normal-sized man, but that the stories got exaggerated over time. Another interesting biblical story is the story of Samson and Delilah. Samson was a judge of Israel who was famous for his superhuman strength. The Bible says that Samson's strength came from his hair, but that Delilah betrayed him and cut off his hair, leading to his capture by the Philistines. This story has been interpreted in different ways, But many scholars believe that it's an allegory for the Israelites' enslavement in Egypt. Samson represents the Israelites and their strength, while Delilah represents the Egyptians, who eventually enslaved them. Let's move on to the New Testament. One of the most important figures in the New Testament is Jesus Christ. But did you know that there is evidence that Jesus may have existed? That's right. There are several historical sources outside of the Bible that mention Jesus. For example, there is a Roman historian named Tacitus who wrote about Jesus in his book, The Histories. He says that in the year 66, a fire broke out in Rome, and that the Christians blamed a man named Christos, who was executed by Pontius Pilate during the reign of Tiberius. Another Roman historian, Suetonius, also mentions Jesus in his book, The 12 Caesars. He says that Emperor Claudius banished the Jews from Rome because they were constantly making trouble. He also says that the Jews were led by a man named Crustus, which is believed to be another reference to Jesus. There is also a Jewish historian named Josephus Flavius who wrote about Jesus in his book, The Antiquities of the Jews. He says that Jesus was a wise man and that he performed many miracles. However, this passage was written long after Jesus' death, so it's not considered to be a reliable historical source. Now, what about the virgin birth? Is there any evidence that Jesus was really born of a virgin? Well, there is a passage in the Quran that mentions the virgin birth. The Quran is the holy book of Islam, and it's believed to have been revealed to the Prophet Muhammad in the 7th century. The passage in the Quran says that Jesus was born of a virgin, and it's considered to be a miracle. However, this isn't considered to be historical evidence, because the Quran was written centuries after Jesus' death. As for the crucifixion, there is a lot of evidence to support it. Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor who ordered Jesus' crucifixion, is mentioned in several historical sources. For example, there is a historian named Philip the Arab, who wrote about Pilate in his book, The History of Rome. He says that Pilate was a cruel and oppressive governor who was eventually removed from office. There is also a coin that was minted during Pilate's governorship that bears his name. This coin is now in the British Museum. There is also an inscription that was found in the ancient city of Caesarea Maritima. The inscription mentions Pilate and credits him with building an aqueduct. All of this evidence supports the fact that Jesus was crucified under the governorship of Pontius Pilate. So there you have it, a brief history of the Bible. Some of these stories are true, while others may have some truth to them. We may never know for sure what really happened. But one thing is certain, the Bible is a powerful book that has shaped our world in many ways. It's a book that should be read and studied carefully. Who knows, you may just learn something new. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please leave a like and subscribe for more great content.